Imagine standing before a mirror that shows not your reflection, but the truth of your choices. Every decision laid bare, every pattern exposed, every excuse stripped away until only reality remains. Most people would shatter that mirror before looking twice. There exists a truth so uncomfortable that some will construct entire philosophies to avoid it. They will blame populations, rewrite histories, manufacture villains, and burn bridges rather than face this one devastating realization. It has nothing to do with aging, nothing to do with physical appearance, nothing to do with the cruelty of circumstance. The truth that terrifies is this: you might be the reason you are still alone. Not the world, not the opposite sex, not timing or fate or bad luck. You. Why does this truth paralyze rather than liberate? Why do some run from accountability as though it were a death sentence rather than a doorway? And what happens to those who spend decades fleeing from the mirror instead of facing it? The answer will unsettle you, but it might also set you free. The gap between public performance and private reality has become a chasm. Scroll through any social media feed, and you will find declarations of empowerment. Living my best life. I don't need anyone. Independence is my superpower. The posts radiate confidence, contentment, and completion. But behind the screens, a different story unfolds. I counsel people who cry themselves to sleep, wondering why nobody chooses them, who checks phones obsessively for messages that never arrive, who attend celebrations alone and leave early because watching others dance together becomes unbearable. One client, a successful professional in her late 30s, curates an Instagram presence, radiating empowerment and self-sufficiency. In our sessions, she admits she has not been held in 2 years, has not experienced a genuine romantic connection in 18 months, returns every night to an apartment where silence greets her like an unwelcome guest. But check her public persona, and you would think she was starring in her own triumphant movie. The emotional weight of unwanted solitude is crushing precisely because it must be hidden. It is the quiet when you return home, the bed that feels larger every night, the slow realization that if you vanished, days might pass before anyone noticed. No one asks if you made it home safely. No one wonders how your day unfolded. No one dreams of building something with you. And yet society glamorizes this isolation. Every publication, every influencer, every cultural message insists that solitude is empowerment, that wanting partnership signals weakness, that desiring love means settling for less than you deserve. So the lonely suffer silently, performing contentment while aching inside. Because admitting loneliness means admitting failure in the current narrative, and that admission has become forbidden. Modern cultural messaging has constructed a protective bubble that prevents the very self-reflection necessary for change. The narrative insists that some people are perfect by default. If they are single, others are not good enough. If they are struggling, systems have failed them. If they are unhappy, external forces are to blame. This bubble feels comforting. It protects the ego. It prevents painful examination, but it also prevents growth. The forbidden question, why are you still single, triggers defensive rage precisely because it implies responsibility. It suggests that perhaps, just perhaps, something within your control could change. Something you are doing or not doing affects your outcomes. But that cannot be true. You have been told your entire life that you are perfect exactly as you are, that anyone would be fortunate to have you, that your worth is inherent and unchangeable. So alternative explanations emerge. Explanations that remove all responsibility while preserving self-image. These explanations persist not because they are accurate, but because they are comfortable. They protect identity. They avoid painful self-examination. They permit staying the same while expecting different results. Friedrich Nietzsche observed that people do not want the truth. They want validation of what they already believe. And nothing validates quite like an explanation that positions you as a victim rather than the architect of your circumstances. Carl Jung went deeper still. He understood that we project onto others the qualities we cannot face in ourselves. When someone consistently blames external forces for internal problems, they are avoiding their shadow, the parts of themselves they have deemed unacceptable. But the shadow does not disappear through denial. It grows stronger in darkness. The resistance to honest feedback creates a closed loop that guarantees repeated failure. Consider how information gets processed. Someone offers an observation. The date ended because of specific behavior. The feedback gets immediately reframed as the observer's inadequacy rather than useful data. Every piece of input that suggests room for improvement gets dismissed. Every mirror gets shattered. Every messenger gets shot. I heard about a dinner where one person spent 2 hours complaining about past relationships, being interrupted constantly, and checking their phone throughout the meal. When no second date followed, the narrative became that the other person was intimidated by confidence. No, they were repelled by behavior. But that truth remains forbidden, so the pattern continues. The lesson goes unlearned, and the loneliness deepens. The claim of intimidation is self-delusion in most cases. People are not frightened by strength. They are unattracted to combative energy. They do not fear success. They avoid attitudes that make the partnership feel like warfare. They are not threatened by independence. They simply see no purpose in joining someone who broadcasts not needing them. Viktor Frankl, who survived unimaginable suffering, understood that between stimulus and response lies choice. That in any circumstance, we retain the freedom to choose our attitude. But that freedom requires acknowledgement that our attitudes are, in fact, choices. When attitude becomes identity rather than choice, change becomes impossible. And impossibility becomes permanent loneliness. The real reasons for extended solitude are almost always internal. But internal examination has become culturally forbidden. Physical health is ignored. Emotional instability is unaddressed. Bitter attitudes worn like perfume. Unrealistic expectations clutched like teddy bears. Past trauma is used as an excuse rather than a catalyst. Social skills are left undeveloped. Admitting any of this means admitting imperfection. And imperfection has become the ultimate sin in a culture that preaches self-acceptance while practicing self-delusion. Appearance matters, not as judgment, but as a signal. Presentation indicates self-respect. Effort indicates investment. These are not shallow concerns. They are visible evidence of how someone manages their life and values themselves. Lifestyle choices affect partnership potential. Chaos at 35 signals chaos at 55. Inability to maintain a home indicates inability to build one together. Financial irresponsibility suggests future instability. These are not moral failures. They are practical assessments that potential partners make consciously or unconsciously. The evaluation happens whether you acknowledge it or not. The question is whether you will participate in the process or pretend it does not exist. Time factors into equations whether we admit it or not. Biological windows are real. Practical considerations are real. Denying unchangeable realities does not alter them. It only makes planning impossible and disappointment inevitable. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that we forfeit 3/4 of ourselves to be like other people. But the opposite trap exists too, refusing to develop ourselves because development might mean admitting we need development. The patterns that repel potential partners get justified rather than examined. Emotional instability gets repackaged as depth. No, that is dysregulation. Volatility gets labeled as passion. No, that is poor impulse control. Exhausting behavior gets called complexity. No, that is simply exhausting. People are not avoiding depth. They are avoiding dysfunction. But therapy requires admitting problems exist. So the dysfunction continues, wearing increasingly elaborate costumes. Lack of discipline manifests everywhere. Cannot maintain consistent healthy habits, but expects a lasting partnership. Cannot sustain friendships, but wants lifelong commitment. Cannot manage resources, but wants to build wealth together. Cannot regulate emotions, but wants intimate trust. Discipline in one area predicts discipline in others. Its absence is visible to anyone paying attention, and potential partners pay attention. Unpleasant behavior gets justified as authenticity. Rudeness becomes keeping it real. Demanding becomes knowing my worth. Criticism becomes having standards. Combativeness becomes not taking disrespect. But authentically unpleasant is still unpleasant. People are not rejecting authenticity. They are rejecting behavior that makes life harder rather than easier. Jean-Paul Sartre understood that we are condemned to be free, that we cannot escape responsibility for our choices by claiming we had no choice. Every behavior is a choice. Every pattern is a series of choices. Pretending otherwise is what he called bad faith. And bad faith, while temporarily comfortable, builds prisons. Peer groups often actively discourage the very accountability that would enable change. Any suggestion of self-improvement gets labeled as a betrayal of identity. Any feedback from others gets dismissed as manipulation. Any traditional wisdom gets pathologized as internalized oppression. These groups keep people stuck in cycles of blame and resentment that guarantee continued isolation. They feel supportive while functioning as a sabotage. I observed a friend group destroy someone's genuine chance at connection. She met a good person who kindly suggested she might reduce a harmful habit. Her circle convinced her this was controlling behavior, an attempt to change her essential nature. She ended the relationship. Years later, she remains alone, still engaging in the habit, still wondering why she cannot find anyone like the one she dismissed. The circle that claimed to protect her actually imprisoned her, but the prison felt like solidarity, so she thanked her jailers. Personal responsibility for healing past trauma gets avoided through perpetual victimhood. Yes, bad things happened. Yes, people caused harm. But using past pain as a permanent excuse for present dysfunction does not attract partners. It repels them. Others are not rehabilitation centers. They are looking for partners, not projects. They want to build futures, not excavate pasts indefinitely. The therapy language without therapy work phenomenon has become epidemic. People learn all the terminology, attachment styles, trauma responses, boundary language, but do none of the actual healing. They use psychological vocabulary to justify dysfunction rather than address it. Knowing your patterns does not excuse your behavior. It obligates you to change it. The resistance to honest self-assessment will be fierce. Some receiving this message are already constructing arguments about why it does not apply to them. Why is their situation genuinely different? Why are their standards appropriate? Why would changing mean betraying themselves? That resistance is the prison. The walls are made of excuses. The bars are made of blame. The lock is made of ego. But here is what some do not understand. People want to choose them. People want a partnership. People want love. But they want it with someone who adds value rather than extracts it. Who brings peace rather than chaos. Who offers support rather than constant criticism. Who provides warmth rather than warfare. The market correction happening now is uncomfortable but necessary. Those who offer little while demanding everything are being passed over. Those who bring genuine value are being chosen. The entitlement bubble is deflating. Reality is reasserting itself regardless of ideological protest. The success stories often follow the same pattern. Person admits they might be the common denominator in their failed connections. Seeks honest feedback. Makes concrete changes. Addresses internal issues. Develops actual value to offer. Suddenly, mysteriously, good options appear. Same world, same dating pool, different from them. Different results. The ultimate truth that terrifies is not judgment, or rejection, or even loneliness. It is that you had the power to change your outcomes all along, that the pain was preventable, that the loneliness was chosen through 1,000 small refusals to look honestly in the mirror. The future requires only the courage to admit imperfection and the discipline to address it. This truth terrifies because it eliminates every hiding place. There is no villain to blame, no system to fight, no bad luck to curse. Only you, your choices, and their consequences. But here is the liberation hidden in that terror. What you control, you can change. What you change changes outcomes. The power was always yours. You simply had to stop giving in to blame, excuses, and ideologies that kept you comfortable and stuck. The clock continues ticking. Every year spent in denial is a year closer to permanent solitude. Every rejection blamed on external forces is a missed opportunity for growth. Every excuse is another bar on the prison you are constructing around yourself. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors those who adapt to circumstances, rather than demand that circumstances adapt to them. The world will not rearrange itself to accommodate your unwillingness to grow. But you can rearrange yourself. You can face the mirror. You can acknowledge what it shows. You can do the work that transforms reflection into possibility. The choice is simple, though not easy. Face the truth and change, or avoid it and remain alone. The truth that terrifies can also transform. The accountability that seems cruel is actually kind. The mirror that shows flaws also illuminates the path to addressing them. Some who receive this message will change their lives. Others will change nothing except their excuses. The difference between them is not circumstance or luck or timing. It is courage. The courage to admit imperfection. The courage to accept responsibility. The courage to become someone worth choosing rather than waiting to be chosen exactly as you are. The mirror stands before you. The truth waits within it. The only question that remains is whether you will look.